It's Jay here from Neilson Boxing. I'm here with Mark Neilson on Fight Week. I think we are roughly about 48 hours from fight night. How are you, Mark?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Gerald. Yeah. Always busy this time of fight week. A lot going on, but looking forward to finishing the year with a massive show.
And obviously, as most people will know, you've been up and down the country, but we're back to Swindon.
It's our hometown. It's one of my favourite venues. We've done a rooftop in Liverpool, Sam Stadium, iconic York Hall, but Swindon. There's just something about it. We know it intimately. We've been there for 10 years. I think we've been doing it. So it's just great to be back. It's a cracking venue. Um, Art Deco, old theatre setups, sort of low ceiling balcony, and the fans just feel like they're sat on the edge of the ring. So it's a brilliant, brilliant atmosphere, and we always pack it out. And that's where the Fight Town name came from the Swindon and sort of local area fight fans, because it's just such a brilliant atmosphere in that place.
Brilliant. And yeah, really looking forward to seeing that this week. It's got to be said, most people, when you think about the border control in the southern area, you sort of think about London and the outskirts. But
Mm.
yourself and Neilson Boxing have really pushed it this year and, taken that a lot further down south. Um,
Well, absolutely. I was looking, Jared, at some of the numbers. I think with this being just like a dozen shows this year, this puts us at one of the busiest promoters in the country, let alone in the south, let alone in the southwest or London. We're up there. You take the big TV promoters out. There's only a handful of us who is fairly regular as we are. So we've gone from a few shows in Swindon and sort of might spread out to Gloucester or something like that. In Liverpool, Oxford, York Hall, 5 shows, and it's really been a sort of breakout year for us, hasn't it?
Perfect. Shall we start off? Should we look through the card for this week?
Yeah, yeah, let's go.
Um, let's look at what really stands out. Let's should we start with Elizabeth Oshoba?
Well, she's a great talent, an absolute great talent. Now, I was there at the Commonwealth Finals and saw her come away with a silver. The girl she was with thought it was like a highly decorated, it's won multi titles, so she was really up against it. But you could still see a talent. She's on a management agreement with Sean Murray, who's got like a great sort of, sort of setup over there. We've got Tosin, obviously he's one of his fighters as well. He's brought Elizabeth in, brought her under his wing. We've got a promotional agreement with her, and I'm sure in not too many fights she's going to be fighting for titles because of the lack of depth in female boxing. It's easier to get to a title quicker. No disrespect to Elizabeth, but there's just not as many. So what we know is probably within half a dozen fights she'll be fighting for a significant title. She's of that caliber. And if you look at through the British rankings, there's not many boxers at all. They're 3-0, 4-0, all fighting each other or are bringing foreigners in. So to have our own female fighter of that caliber, we know we're going to be getting some big fights soon, probably on TV in the not too distant future.
No, that's a really great addition to the card and a great addition to the team as well. Um,
Yeah.
from what I've seen online, she's actually in the same gym as Brad Ingram as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's been looked after by Mehdi Bilabi. We were down the gym in Bristol the other week, just going to look at some sparring and stuff. So she's going to got a real good setup over there. We know it, we like it, we trust it. She's getting some good sparring. She's very settled. She's over from Nigeria, and just there's a bit of a community over in Bristol. She's settled really well. She's enjoying herself. Really, very polite, very humble, but a great boxer and some sort of menace when she's in the ring. So we're looking forward to what the future brings for her.
No, that's great. I think Medi's starting to build quite a nice stable there. I see Brad is on the card as well, in his
Yeah.
second six rounder.
Yeah, well, he's coming along quite nicely. So really good amateur, great pedigree, sort of multi-title winner. We signed him, and the plan was to get him out sort of ideally 5 fights this year. Had a little bit of a niggle, which missed one of them. So this will be his fourth fight. Hopefully in against Paul Scaife, who's going to give him a bit of a run for his money. And but it's a bit of a development fight. It's only his fourth fight. We're hoping to get him through unscathed on a 4-0. He's been tweaking his training, doing more sort of strength and conditioning, sort of working on the nutrition. And when they go from the amateurs to the pros, it's a big step up. It's a very different kind of boxing. They can get in with some of these journeymen who've been around, sort of 100 plus fights, and they can put it on you, and they do all the tricks of tying you up and the elbows in the face and the lock in the arms. So they need to go through these fights, because when they start getting into a 50-50, which is going to be happening next year, they need these sort of experienced these rounds under their belt. So hopefully we're going to be finishing this year on a 4-0, and it'd be a big tick in the box for this year. But like we said, Mehdi Bilali is really looking after him. My favourite Algerian here, so he's a lovely guy. Worked with likes of Selby and Haskins and Glenn Catley and all that back in the day. So he's a really experienced guy. So he's a great addition. These guys are sort of a great addition to our stable, and sort of excited for next year. I think Elizabeth, even though it's a debut for her on Saturday, and Brad in his fourth fight on Saturday, both of those are probably looking at titles next year.
Perfect. I mean, just looking at BoxRec now, I can see that Brad had his debut, I think, on the 20th of November last year. So it's literally a couple of days over a year. Another person who had their debut that evening was Lewis Roberts, who looks like
Yeah.
he's really
Oh,
kicked
El
around
Gordito.
now.
Yeah, he's come to just, I mean, he's brilliant, isn't he? I mean, everybody, he just raises the roof. They call him El Gordito, which is Mexican for fat mouse, because as an amateur, he came in heavy on a day of a weigh-in. And so he just got absolutely ribbed for that. And they called him the little fat mouse, because he's a, small guy, featherweight, and he's not an ounce of fat on him. He's got a cracking six pack, which I haven't seen since I was like 14. And so they call him the fat mouse. It's quite funny, but he brings the crowd with him. He comes in with a sombrero, the mariachi band's going to sort of sing him in and sing him out with the guitars and the pipes and whatever. And it's just a great atmosphere. All his crowd, it's a bit sort of crazy. You look out when you stood in the ring with him, and you can just see the silhouettes of people against the bar or whatever, the back of the room, with all these sombreros on and these sort of El Gordito t-shirts and stuff, and he just brings it. And so, he's working with one of Paddy Fitzpatrick's old fighters, and obviously Paddy was working with like the who's who of boxing, and more notably recently, with George Groves in his world title fights. So he's a great local fighter. He's got a great following. They've been stepping him up as well, because he's only a young lad. He's still developing. This would be hopefully another experienced fight for him, another six rounder. So yeah, interesting to watch him develop as well.
No, great development with him. And somebody who also had their
Mm.
debut on that evening just over a year ago was Connor Gray, who looks like he's been kept the busiest this year.
Oh, he's good. Well, he's just great. He's always busy, always fit, always available. Takes on any opponent. Liam Lathbury knows what he's doing. He's managed by Ronnie Davis of obviously Chris Eubank, junior and senior. He's managed by him. We've got a sort of an agreement with him to keep him busy on all the home shows, and he's a great addition. I've seen him from his debut to now, which would be his seventh fight, just sort of slowly growing in stature and strength and experience and confidence. And his last fight, we were expecting to see him step it up a little bit, but he damaged his hand right in the first round, and then you could just see he was having to hold back a little bit, which is a shame. Because you sit down again, he sort of started to let it go, but if an injury in the first round of a fight, he's obviously just got to be a bit cautious. So that just showed his maturity. But we'll see him in again Saturday. Another some more rounds under his belt. I know Liam Lathry's got big plans for him and thinks of him as a TV fighter, but he's probably held him back a little bit just to learn, get the experience under his belt. Don't rush, get the rounds in, develop, and now we should start seeing him go. So yeah, interesting to keep an eye on his progress.
I see he's stepping up to 8 rounds as well. Another
Mm.
fighter I think will be, pushing on to the 8 rounds in the title scene next year is Bradley Townsend, who
Yeah.
looks like he's in a real tasty fight.
Yeah, well, he's like 11-0 now. We've got this South American we brought in with a winning record who's it's getting difficult to match him. We've nearly had some title fights, but then they've sort of like dropped through last minute. So, of course, Brad's just quite happily just taking whatever opponents we could get to keep him busy, keep him active, keep him winning. And, he's just talent. He's skillful. He's very slick, fast moving. You're starting to see some power. He's dropped down to super light, carrying a bit more power down. I mean, but like 11-0, we're talking big titles now. I think he's sort of bypassing the southern area sort of caliber. We could be looking at sort of English level next for him, and he's real talent. He's got some real skill, and he always entertains.
There was lots of talk previously about Jack McGann bringing down celebrities, but I understand Bradley Townsend has a familiarity with Jeremy Clarkson as well.
Well, that's right. I think him and his dad are builders, and they do a lot of work on the farm. You'll probably know better than me, but um, there's been the odd time, and they've been sort of like popping in to watch a fight from behind the scenes, and absolutely. I mean, uh, he's got a good following as well. Always brings a good crowd with him. So yeah, exciting times actually. He's really easy to work with, and a really good fighter.
Definitely. When we're talking about a big crowd, there's probably a great place to go to is Jordan Flynn, and what was a massive crowd in Oxford previously.
So it felt like I didn't it feel like I had half of Oxford there. It was just amazing. I love those kind of events when you've got a main event like Jordan, who sort of sold over 300 tickets in a smaller venue. It was a small card, intentionally small card, because it was a smaller venue with just our Oxford contingent. And he sort of finished it off with a main event. Absolutely raised the roof. Brilliant, lad. He has a massive social media following. He trains down at Matchroom Gym, trained by Kevin Mitchell. They're a pleasure to deal with, great to deal with. He can deliver in the ring as well. Very good, very slick, massive following. I know Kev speaking to TV broadcasters now. We'll see him, I'm sure, on a boxer Wasserman or something like that next year. But he's certainly ready for the step up. Again, he wants to keep busy, finish the year on 8-0, but with such a massive following, it's he's bringing a big crowd again. And if we look at the card as a whole, some of these guys are got really big followings. And then, as I said earlier, about this venue Mecca being Art Deco, low ceiling, with all these people in there, we're at capacity. There's going to be a full house for sure, and it's just what a brilliant way to finish the year. Yeah, so Jordan Flynn will bring hundreds with him as he always does, which would be a great addition to the card.
One thing I've really noticed this
I've
year
really noticed this.
is your ability to work with other promoters and other managers.
Mm.
On the card, I see Billy Stanbury, Constantine Ursu, Bradley O'Connor. These boxers obviously not with Neilson Boxing, but you're given the opportunity for other local boxers to get on these cards as well.
Yeah, well, we're not going to work with every promoter because we're selective who we're going to work with. We only want to work with people we trust, we respect, have got caliber boxers who reciprocate, and we're sort of working. We've built up our relationships this year. We're working with Goodwin, Sanaga, Mo Pryor, Lee Eaton, Errol Johnson, Steve Goodwin. We touched on. We've had Frank Warren fighters on the card, so we're working with them all if it suits us and it suits them. But you sometimes see it. It's all gets the headlines, doesn't it, on the YouTube channels when some of the promoters are at each other, and it makes for good viewing and stuff. Yeah, it's all well and good, but actually it benefits us all if we work together. That's the way I am. That's the way I think it should be. The boxers, they win, they benefit from it. The crowd benefit from it because we're able to get good fights with different promoters on different people's cards. And with us having so many dates, it's beneficial for some of the other promoters to they have big stables of boxers and don't have enough dates. Well, we're so busy, we can slot some of their guys onto the card. If it works for us, it works for them.
I think a big positive of that, obviously, if you look up and down this card, there's a lot of fighters that are probably 2, 3 fights away from titles. The
Yeah,
fact you're working with other promoters means you can give them those options without being sort of
yeah,
too much holding it in house.
yeah, absolutely. We signed a lot of boxers, but we haven't signed a lot of already experienced boxers. So we've got a lot of prospects. So if we work our way down the card, 2-0, 6-0, 4-0 debut, these guys. So the next sort of 12 to 24 months is big breakout years for all these guys. So where we've had some what we call our sort of Fight Town Academy cards, where we've had development fights for a lot of these guys, we'll be moving on to a lot of title fights next year. But of course, we've built the relationships with these other promoters, like you said. We can then start looking at 50-50s because they're going to be happy to put their guys on our cards. They know us, they trust us. We know we look after them and their fighters. Everyone gets paid on time. And so they'll be happy to let their guys go on out. So we've got an awful lot of title fights, eliminators, southern areas. We've got some Commonwealth eliminators coming through next year. So some really big fights happening next year. We're developing quite nicely. We've had a really good year. There's been the odd banana skin for the odd guy along the way. But yeah, most of them, vast majority of them have come through. They've developed what we want to do. We've built relationships with the other promoters. So it's all good for Neilson Boxing next year that we're going to have an awful lot of title fights, which is just better for the fight fan.
100%. Just looking at the card here as well, one that really stood out from the last Swindon card was Shabir Hadri and his win over Jake Pollard. I mean, nobody really stops Jake. What can we expect of Shabir this time?
Well, Shab's last time out had been out for a year with a hand injury. He damaged his hand, came back a bit too quick, damaged it again, and was out for the rest of the year. So he was back in sparring. Jake Pollard, he was going to see how it goes. Obviously, there's a bit of nerves when you have like a hand injury. It's the same for any boxers. I mean, everyone knew about it, and he sort of like just but he had no ill effects from it, so he started to let it go, and it just shows the power, and it's absolutely fit. He's come through that completely unscathed, completely healed. It's great, and he's obviously got some power. Like he said, nobody stops Jake Pollard, and he's one of those great backstory as well. He's an Afghan refugee who's now sort of settled here. And he's built himself a life, a career, a boxing career, great amateur. I mean, John Pittman, his trainer at Fight Factory in Gloucester, sort of raved about him, said, he's going to be the next big thing. And, absolutely, he's coming through really well. But he brings a massive crowd and his ring entrance as well. They know what they're doing at John's Fight Factory. He comes in with sort of Afghan tribal wear, this big woolly coat and hat, and the crowd love it. And he's entertaining to watch. Lovely guy to deal with, very humble, down to earth, appreciative, and yeah, he just brings a lot of excitement to the night.
No, I'm really looking forward to see Shabs on the card, which takes us on very nicely to John Pittman's biggest fighter at the moment.
Yeah, Max Mudway 6-0 now. I mean, we had him against the really tough Tio Vitadis in his last fight, winning record, former Greek champ, illustrious amateur career, coming over here in Max's first 8 rounder. We're supposed to be giving him a really big test because we're stepping up in class. Max, in his normal way, just comes in unfazed, takes him out in the first round, absolutely flawless. And he's one of these as well who brings the entertainment to the night as well. Max Mudway, he'll have the gladiator mask on, arms outstretched. Are you not entertained? Driving the crowd wild, then comes and delivers in the ring. In against Serge and Bomo, but he was a sort of like late replacement. We were supposed to be in for an English eliminator, but last minute problems in the other camp meant that couldn't happen. Too late to get anyone in for an eliminator. But not to worry. We've got him in with really good opponent. I mean, Sergio Barmo comes to win, just coming off a win against Lorenzo Grasso, who was an undefeated prospect in his last fight and a few weeks ago. So, Max, better be on his game because Serge finds you out if you're not. So, top of the bill, cracking fight still, even though it's not an eliminator, it's still a great fight. Still a great fight. Max is up for it. He knows he's got to be on his game. And we're looking at Gloucester in March next year, and we're going for titles. It'll be 7-0, and then a couple of 8 rounders by then. I'm not trying to look past Surgeon Barman, but if he does his job, he should deal with him, hopefully in style. And then we're looking at titles in March for a massive Neilson boxing show in Gloucester. Then we've got and that's looking like a great lineup already. Obviously with Max, with Shabs, we've got a new signing, Jack Bannister, this really brilliant cruiserweight. He's going to make a debut. Sean Murray's guy, Townsend, Elizabeth Show will be on there. The Hereford guys we've had on the previous shows. And we're already sort of building out the cards for next year now.
Brilliant. Yeah, I can't wait to see Max up there. I mean, it's one of those
Mm,
goosebump moments when that intro music starts playing and the crowd
yeah,
goes absolutely wild. Yeah, you can't really beat those moments.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
what else are we looking at next year? Have we got anything in the plans yet? Or
Well, we're steamrolling so much into this show. It's our final show of the year, what's been a massive year for us. I think I was telling somebody earlier, this time a year ago, we weren't even thinking of being in London. We were going to do sort of like half a dozen shows. We've ended up with 12, doing 5 in York Hall, Liverpool, Oxford, Bracknell, Gloucester, Swindon. We've been all over the place, and what a year it's been. But we're now looking at March already. We've got 2 shows in March. We've got a York Hall show. We've got a Gloucester show. And as I just touched on with Gloucester, we're filling the card already nicely, looking at title fights. The York Hall, we've got Southern area. We've got probably an English. Definitely got a couple of Southern areas, some eliminators, a couple of debuts. This time a year ago, we weren't even thinking about being in London. Now, we're looking at March and have filled half the card already. We're already looking at moving on to our July card, and we're planning. This is what we touched on earlier about working with the other promoters and the other managers. We're now sort of planning far more ahead, which is better for the boxers because they can plan. They know when they're fighting. The managers don't have to get to January and think, "Oh, I need to find a date for my guys." They already know. We've got our own stable of boxers that's growing quite nicely. We've got our own very Brad Ingram. We've got Johnny Ward, our KO specialist at super middle. And we're developing these guys, really, really nicely. So Kieran Flanagan's going to be back in the mix. Tom Brennan, John Brennan. So we've got lots going on next year. It's looking forward to a busy year. We're in touch with broadcasters now, both in the UK and in the Middle East. So people want to start, working with Neilson Boxing. It's great. We've built a great brand this year, great product, great for the boxers, great for the fight public, and broadcasters are interested. So yes, 2023 is going to be massive for us. Really excited about it, and yeah, there's a fast forward to next year. Just it's going to sort of pinch ourselves really, but obviously 2022. We also, went broadcast for the first time on main TV, Sky Sports via Box Nation, Premier Sports. We've sort of got massive viewing figures for that, and that's sort of like got a lot of people's attention. So more of the same for next year.
That's it's just mouth-watering, isn't it? I mean, it's a big
Yeah.
year to come, big card this weekend, and yeah, it's very, very exciting. Just finally, I hear there's a lot of boxers, past, present, and future in attendance on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got in the southwest, we've got like Lee Selby's coming, Jamie Cox is coming, local pros will be there. So we're the main show in town when Neilson Boxing's at Fight Towns at a Swindon show. So we really bring it. We've got an 11 fight card. Doors open at 5 o'clock. It's going to be action from the first till the last. Raising money as always for Phoenix Enterprises, the local charity. We've got lots of boxers, past and like I say present, all champions in attendance. The place to be on Saturday night.
Brilliant, Mark. Really exciting times. I will see you on Saturday at Fight Time Swindon. Cheers.
Cheers, Jared. Cheers.